February 2016, Mr. Max Bliss in the southwest of France, and as you can see, the sky is having all kinds of different types of trails and stimulation, and this haziness that's building up because of the CONtrails and the CONtrails cirrus clouds. And it's absolutely ridiculous that anyone can normalise this, can say this has no effect on the climate. There are articles from the Smithsonian magazine about how CONtrails may be accidentally geoengineering, creating a warming. There's scientists from the IPC called Oliver Boucher, and he has been doing research that indicates that aviation CONtrails are having a greater impact on global warming than the CO2 emitted from the billions of barrels used every single day in aviation fuel. This is a phenomenal effect that we can witness in the sky. The skies have changed dramatically. This isn't what we grew up with. Now, some will say it's just because of the extra aviation. And that's a valid point. But is there a real even correlation between the increase in CONtrails and the increase in aircraft? Of course not. There's just a tremendous increase in CONtrails. It does not correlate with the increase in aircraft. And I think the hypothesis is pretty solid, really, that we're stating that we believe that there are deliberate CONtrails created, just as is stipulated in the American Air Force Symposium Owning the Weather 2025. They wanted to stipulate that they would have the ability to create and suppress CONtrails. Now, we know they have the ability to do this. And we know that the effects of these CONtrails can be phenomenal, that they can create regional warming. And that regional warming could be misrepresented as some increases in temperature due to CO2, which is preposterous, absolutely ridiculous to think that the tiny percentage of CO2 in the atmosphere, which is 0.0375%, the percentage of this, which is man-made, is ridiculously small. So you end up with such a minuscule amount of man-made CO2 coming from, and it's interesting, isn't it, we have planes with just short trails as well as all these persistent ones. But the percentage of man-made CO2 is so ridiculously small, it's just an insult to your intelligence to buy this pressure from the media, from a corrupt establishment, from these climate scientists who are getting huge amount of funding from the likes of Bill Gates and these advocates that want one world government. Bill Gates wants one world government. He's a crazy guy. He's an insane crazy guy. Vaccinating everyone. He's a eugenicist. And he's funding Ken Caldeira and David Keith. And David Keith is in this for the money. Just as Ken Caldeira is. The money. David Keith has a huge financial stake in carbon dioxide removal. It's his business. So he's got to sell the global warming fear campaign, and he does a remarkably good job of pushing solar radiation management at the same time, because that's the only quick fix. So all these people pushing the global warming alarm, just be aware. Carbon dioxide will take decades to implement. Not that it would have much of effect anyway, because the effect from CO2 is minimal. Okay? But their quick fix is to start spraying the sky and doing solar radiation management, blocking out the sun. Well, what do we think is happening right now here in our sky? We're getting artificial clouds. These ice crystals are blocking out the sun and also trapping in the sun. It's a complicated issue because these types of thin clouds, these CONtrails, cirrus clouds and CONtrails, they act like a piece of Gore-Tex in the sky. They're letting the heat in and they're trapping the heat from leaving. They're trapping the infrared heat. So we are getting an artificial warming right now. But it's not a runaway warming. It's not a dire global meltdown, but it can create that feeling where if they are using sulfur dioxide, as David Keith suggests, if they're using aluminium oxide, as David Keith suggests, and the other different types of diamond dust and other types of exotic nanoparticles they want to engineer to scatter away sunlight, if they are using those ingredients, they will damage the ozone. And this will allow a greater amount of UV radiation to hit the surface. That is why we are feeling, when the sun is on our skin, it is burning now. It is more intense than it used to be. Why is that? It's because the ozone is being damaged, not just by those particular ingredients, also by nitrous oxide, which is obviously a byproduct from all these planes flying around. We are being lied to on a daily basis. We have virtually a geoengineering program using the deliberate deployment of CONtrails. They have the ability to suppress them, so that means they can turn them off. So if you have a sulfur-doped fuel or the ability to add sulfur-rich fuel in when you want to, you can form your CONtrails and you can then turn them off. So you then have the ability to locate them where you want them. That's another part of this, to deliberately form CONtrails and cirrus where you want them for regional warming or for seeding the cloud decks when the ice crystals fall down to a lower cloud deck. You're getting all these really white clouds. It's quite common these days, like some sort of marine cloud brightening experiment perhaps. Maybe that was a knee-jerk response or a necessary response because of the global dimming that we were getting. Well, no one talks about global dimming because miraculously it went away. Well, the clouds seem to have got a lot whiter on occasions as well. So we know they want to experiment brightening the clouds. Is it happening already? We cannot say for sure, but one thing we surely can say is we didn't see skies like this when we were growing up. Doesn't matter if you lived under the busiest airports, near the busiest airports, under the busiest air corridors in the world. You didn't see this unless you were near a military training base. And what of all those contrails we used to see from the Second World War? Well, they were caused by anti-detonation injection, by water methanol injection. And those B-17 bombers that Mick West is so pleased to show everyone, they were running up to 7.5 hours on water injection. And what do you get when you use water and alcohol and you spray it in a hot engine? You get clouds forming, because that is how you do your clouds for your movie sets. You use alcohol and hot water and you put it through a machine. The fog liquid is alcohol and water and you get your clouds. What do you think you get when you inject that into an engine? You get CONtrails. Of course you do. This is what we were seeing in the Second World War, and a lot of jets and a lot of following the Second World War used the same technology. Even Concorde did. So there are lots of different occasions when so-called CONtrails are just a normal phenomena. Yeah, they're a normal phenomena if you happen to be injecting extra water into your fuel, into the combustion process, or into the exhaust plume as another method to form an artificial contrail or create a contrail. There's lots of different ways, but one thing we can be sure is this sky is different to when we were growing up. And if it is just because of the extra planes, are we going to have some aviation-free days? Are we going to do what happened on 9/11 when the planes are grounded? Let's have some clear skies. Let's stop the planes flying. Let's have 3-day breaks every week. Let's see how much of an impact the planes are having on the environment. Let's stop the planes from flying. Let's put our technologies into high-speed trains and high-speed ships. Let's find some alternatives, because we are being lied to about climate, we're being lied to about the impact of this, and we know what the goal is. We know what the goal is. It's carbon tax, cap and trade schemes. It's moving society to a carbon-free economy, which means that basically we end up beholden to the next monopoly that comes along. And of course, I'm all for renewable energies and clean things, but we have to be aware that our governments are moving towards a one-world government system, a system of tyranny, totalitarian system. We don't want this. We do not want this. Climate change is their con. That's their motivation to get everyone to acquiesce. And we just got to do our research and find out that this is all a massive scam, and it's time to wake up. It's time to get our freedom. It's time to wake everyone up. Take care. Bye for now.